Hello and welcome. In this particular series, we're going over e-commerce subscriptions. And today we're going to be taking a look at integrations. Now, integrations is in particular a huge value to businesses that are scaling and want to offer higher value at lower cost in a very scalable manner. Now, this is kind of the panacea of operating a business once you've kind of figured out at a lower scale and on a kind of more granular tactical level what works. What is it that's delivering value? What is it that's delighting your customers? And then how can we automate each of those steps in the process so that you can deliver that increasing value at scale? Now, one of the beautiful things about e-commerce, and in particular integrated e-commerce, is you can leverage these automations to then allow your high-touch processes to bolster and reinforce some of these automations. But in particular, if you take a look at kind of the landscape of subscriptions overall, we're covering a series where we're going over a lot of the features and benefits, kind of definitions, some of the details of the pros and cons, and in particular, we're going to be taking a look today at the ERP integration side of things and how this can be really powerful for a business. Now, if you take a look first, one of the number one things that you want to be able to take advantage of with subscriptions is offering a discount. Now, most companies, whenever they have a B2B offering or really a B2C offering where they're offering quantity-based discounts, they're going to be pricing those discounts based on some form of kind of what kind of cost of goods sold they're dealing with, what kind of profitability they're going to have available, this kind of a thing. Usually that's going to come from an ERP system. So the reason that we want to have an integration for this is so that we can dramatically improve the kind of accuracy of this pricing data and ultimately have a single kind of source of truth for the business. So the ERP system, this master source of record or accounting system, this is going to control the data for pricing. Now, most ERP systems have price rules. They may have, quantity price breaks. They may have specific customer types. There may be membership models where a membership would allow someone to get a discount by purchasing a recurring membership. These are the types of scenarios. This doesn't cover all of them, but the concept is if you're able to integrate with your ERP, you can dramatically improve the pricing options that a customer gets whenever they're doing something either at scale or in a large quantity, for example, or if they're a customer type. If they're a certain type of preferred customer, maybe they purchase a certain amount of revenue. Maybe that just by having, in most cases, a actual subscription, we want to offer them a discount. So these are some of the scenarios. Now, just to kind of visualize this, you can see this whenever you take a look at sites like Alibaba, for example, where they're saying you have to purchase a certain number of items in order to get the item at all. Another example would be Grainger. On Grainger's site, they have a similar model where you have to purchase package sizes. With Amazon, for example, they also show on their business site different units, a number of units, and then you get a discount. And this is a huge value for businesses really who want to offer some form of subscription. Normally, whenever you purchase a subscription, you're going to get a discount. Now, this can be really, really convincing for a consumer. And if we take a look at a consumer example, we also want to offer these pricing options and upsell. So in the actual cart, we want to be able to show an upsell opportunity. And if we can get them to upsell, this is one of the highest payoff areas of subscriptions, and we're offering them a discount. So this really helps the end customer to kind of see the value of the subscription. And if we can pull it directly from our ERP integration, this really matches up to what's best for the business. We're not just driving these pricing options based on a kind of arbitrary decision. We're basing it off of hard data that's sitting inside of an ERP. Now, one of the most common things about ERP integrations is customers will ask, well, if we have a subscription and we're showing a lower price from the ERP, do we need to actually pull the exact price? No, we can use percentages. We can include a buffer or a margin. There's all kinds of opportunity to integrate business logic between the value that's in the ERP and then the value that's presented to the end customer. So there's always an opportunity to provide margin and markup within that set of pricing options. Another thing that's a really powerful concept for ERP integration is timeline and being able to deliver a consistent kind of fulfillment. And in particular, whenever you're dealing with subscriptions, one of the huge value adds is that we're going to be able to provide the actual replenishment or access or custom delivery on a set timeline. Now, if for whatever reason this doesn't happen, then a lot of the trust that's built into a subscription goes away. And in fact, it can become a major frustration. So it's really kind of a double-edged sword with subscriptions. If you aren't consistent about delivery, you're going to create a lot of headache because there's going to be a lot of trust built into that kind of subscription timeline that's established. And any kind of delays absolutely need to be communicated. The end customer needs to be notified. And ultimately, if possible, this all needs to be prevented. So this kind of gets into the ability to auto replenish. Whenever you're dealing with subscription-based models, and these are integrated to your warehouse management, inventory management, and overall ERP system, one of the best things about this is you can use your predictive models within your ERP to then have a really, really solid kind of overall planning of your inventory purchases and fulfillment. So you can adjust fulfillment on the fly. You can look at things like incorporating AI and machine learning into seasonality if your business has seasonality impacts. You can look at impacts to the overall market for raw materials and factor that in as a input into a model to predict what kind of purchasing and what kind of advanced planning you need to do. Now, this is something that we really strongly encourage if you're at scale. If you're not at scale, you want to at least be thinking about these things so that you can integrate your ERP system and create predictability. And then as you really scale up, you're going to need to factor in more inputs like things that are outside of your control that you can at least stockpile resources or stockpile items that are fulfilled that are getting a lot of usage in certain seasons, for example. Okay, so another thing that's really, really powerful about subscription integration to ERP. So think someone's purchasing on a site, they're making this purchase and it is a auto ship every 6 months or every 2 months, etc. Well, there is always the ability to leverage dropshipping as well. A lot of our clients use dropship to actually do all of their fulfillment, or at least part of their fulfillment. So one of the things that's really powerful here is if you've got the ability to bring in dropship into your integrated fulfillment, whether it's through the ERP system or through a kind of combination of your integration to your ERP and a dropship provider or multiple dropship providers, then you can literally scale your business as really much as these dropship providers can deliver on. And a lot of the dropship providers have a serious scale. So again, the concept here that we're looking for is we want to allow your end customers to have a lot of self-service capability so that whenever you really have that product fit or that kind of value in the market that is really hitting a nerve and delivering, then you really need to be able to automate as much of the process as possible. And that's where delivering this integration is really, really key. Not just having a subscription and having the ability to sign up for something, but being able to then fulfill it and tie into all of the tentacles into your back office systems to be able to then actually deliver on that, that promise of that subscription. A couple other things that we'd like to point out here. Warehouse management can be really key as well. So a lot of our clients that are delivering on subscriptions, they have different ways of fulfilling the items, and this can logistically drive a massive change in profitability. So to give you an example, there may be a particular shortage of items in a region of the country, and because there's a shortage of the items, a particular warehouse is going to be low on inventory, but there may be really a dearth of these items in another area, and so we need to do warehouse transfers. This kind of thing is pretty common. Ideally, it's something that we can automate through just kind of awareness of the data, again, using machine learning or artificial intelligence, and really just kind of looking at base warehouse management and inventory management capabilities. Tying this back into your subscription model allows you to kind of intelligently look at delivery kind of locations, if you will, and tie this to your warehouse management system and really look at what the inventory is for subscriptions when you're selling them on your website. So it really depends. Are you looking at a replenishment model? Are you looking at, some other form of subscription? Maybe curation, where you're making customized deliveries. Those type of models, it really makes sense to have some concept of warehouse management. Even if it's just a single warehouse, a lot of times it can make a huge difference if your actual inventory levels and your inventory management is really solid. And it's hard to do that if your subscription purchases are not tightly integrated with your warehouse itself, with your warehouse software, with your team in your warehouse, inventory management that's going on, etc. So this is something that fundamentally, if your team needs support on, we recommend working with a vendor who has done this before and who can tightly integrate the purchasing of the subscriptions and the status updates of the subscriptions back to your back office systems. If you can't do that, then you have this promise that you're making about a subscription being fulfilled, and it's not necessarily going to be consistently true. And that's where you can get into trouble with really scaling your subscription and your overall business. And kind of the last point that we want to hit on today with this part of the subscription e-commerce series is inventory management. Now, inventory management kind of ties into a lot of what we've been talking about today, but one of the things that's particularly challenging about inventory management for some customers is depending on what they're dealing with. Again, this heavily is going to apply to replenishment and curation, where we're delivering items that are going to make sense. They're going to basically run out after a certain time period. Think about hotels that have certain toiletries, for example, or think about a good example is pools. Pools run out of chlorine, but the chlorine levels are different at different times of year. So these are replenishment type of models, but there may be some adaptability that's necessary, especially in a B2B type of an offering. Similarly with curation, we're going to be doing something really custom for a franchise, for example. And that particular franchise needs to be able to see exactly what kind of inventory is available so they can open 3 stores in a new region and have everything they need before the store is ready to open. If not, they're not going to be able to rely on your company as a fulfiller of the subscription that they have, and possibly a curated set of subscriptions. Now, another example would be buying groups. And if a buying group is delivering something via dropship and the inventory isn't available, then this is going to be a huge problem. So this is ultimately where integration is absolutely critical. You've got to be able to get all the way into the inventory levels of your dropship providers, of your curated, customized delivery for those franchises. You have to be able to get all the way into the weeds of all of these subscription types that you're going to be replenishing. If the chlorine levels are low and it's the middle of summer, this could be a huge problem if you're offering chlorine replenishment on a subscription. So the point is that having a deep integration to not only your ERP system, but even kind of ancillary related back office systems is absolutely critical to deliver. Whenever you work with a company that has the ability to tie all the way into your ERP, all the way into other line of business applications, and even really custom endpoints that are necessary to get at what your end customers need, that's when you're really kind of at the pointy end of the spear in your particular market. It's all about delivering self-service to your end users. And if you can add that kind of extra mile of capability, then you can completely dominate in your particular niche and your particular industry. And that's what we want to help you do. Certainly feel free to reach out to our team if we can help. And we hope this video has been helpful. We'll see you in the next one.